just into a series, a theme all year long. That's a new day, and it came from our 15th anniversary celebration. I said, after 15 years, we're ready for a new day, and this is the whole idea that this is a new day. And I said the first series that we want to deal with is the new days of creation, and so we've had. The idea I was building towards was that on this day, we've been talking about the sun, moon, and stars, because I wanted us to be able to focus on the fact that, in one sense, stars are not just out there, but they're in here as well. And we're going to be getting back to that in just a minute, but just a little review. Day one of creation. What happened on day one of creation? Anybody know this answer? I tell you what, it's not that easy in my thinking. Day one, what happened? Heavens and the earth, and there was a special part of that was created, which was light. Yes, light. Day two, he created day two was the sky. It was the sky, the firmament. And day three was land and sea. But, I was going to speak on, actually, if I had been well, it would all fit. It's just like things got turned upside down. Any of you have your plans get turned upside down? I just want to ask you that. So this is, you've got a turned upside down plan that's sort of coming out this way. Next week, we're going to be talking about land and sea. This morning, it's going to be about the sun, moon, and stars, day 4 of creation. And, every one of these days is designed to help us focus on God. It's not about it's so much about the issue that there is a sky, but there's a sky king. Light, Jesus, the light of the world. We're looking at sun, moon, and stars today, and we are called to be stars, shining in this universe. And we are to reflect it, but it's always to point us beyond the stars to God. It's to see the stars. It's to see the stars. It's to see God, and that's the whole issue. Genesis 1 says, "And God said, 'Let there be lights in the vault,' or the firmament." There's this kind of idea back in those days that this was just the sky was sort of a firm, solid fixture, and in the sky it separated the day from the night and let them serve as signs. Let those lights serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years, so that when we look up at the sky and see the stars, we're to say, well, gosh, this is a special day. This is a special season. This is a time to recognize the presence of God. This is what God is up to. God is doing things, and I can see it in the stars. And to mark the sacred days and times and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth. And it was so. It's not just so that it gives light. It's so that we see God beyond the light. And the question that was raised in Isaiah is, when you lift up your eyes on high and see who created these things. When you look up, have you ever done that and said, gosh, I look at the sky, something had to put this all into motion. What is this? This has got to be God. This has to be. And he who brings out their hosts by number, calling them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. God is in control. And if God is in control of all the stars, I think by inference, God is in control of what's going on in our world. It seems like at times, you feel like at times the world is just going haywire. Our world. But God says, I've ultimately, got this thing going. He determines, it says in Psalm 147, he determines the number of the stars. He gives to all of them their names. Great is our Lord and abundant in power. His understanding is beyond measure. I feel like I've had the power to give names to my children and also to some of my animals, the pets, because I'm the one that's kind of in charge. This is so in fact, it's kind of interesting. I was talking to Mike. I guess you're back, and your daughter Taylor was saying, I answer to certain names. She said, I answer to Taylor, but there's certain names that people will give to me. I won't answer to that name. She just says, but I do respond to certain names, and there's a power in names. If we respond to a name, we are underneath that authority, and God is the one who's given the names to the stars. I gave my name, by the way, to my oldest son, as mentioned in the early service. My name is Thomas Charles Andrews. I gave him the name Charles Thomas Andrews, but he's a reflection of me. And this is what God wants us to see when we look at the stars, to see a reflection of God. God is there. God is up to something. God is beyond this. He has named those stars. He has ordered those stars. He has numbered those stars. He is in charge of those stars. And it goes on to say in Genesis 1, God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, the sun, and the lesser light to govern the night, the moon, and he also made the stars. And God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw it was good. In fact, I think what God wanted us to say when we see the stars is to say, wow, it's good. It's good. But he wanted us to say something more than that. He wanted to say, wow, not only is it good, but it's God. God is behind all of this. And there is evening and there was morning on this fourth day. When I look at your heavens, it says in Psalms 8, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? You ever felt that way? That I'm just this little bitty speck in this great big universe, and what am I? Have you ever felt like if your life had been erased, that it would make no difference? And that's kind of, I think this is why we need to watch It's a Wonderful Life every year. That's that whole picture of gosh, you erase one life, what impact does it make? And the truth is, each one of us has been made by God, for God, and our life counts. Each one of us has been given this very brief opportunity to shine like a star. And our lives count. But when we look at the heavens, instead of saying, what am I? We're to say, God, the fact that you made stars is really special. The fact that you've made me is really special. And I'm a part of this great universe that you've created. It goes on to say in Deuteronomy 4 that sometimes we get so focused on the created things that we lose sight of the fact that there is a creator. And beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars and the host of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them, things that the Lord your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven. It's easy to get so absorbed in life that you miss the one who's given us life. So absorbed in the good things that God has blessed us with that we fail to realize that God is the one who's the giver. We get absorbed in trying to cope, and so we don't turn to the one who wants to give us strength to cope. It's just the stuff of life. Have you ever said, "Hey, I want to be more cognizant that God is here, that God's in my life," and you still recognize, gosh, this is a long stretch of time that I never even gave a thought to the fact that God is the one who's behind it all. There was a guy by the name of Frank Lubach who wrote a book called The Game with Minutes. And what he tried to do was to break down his day into discernible periods. Like he said, I'd like once an hour, Every hour I'd like to think about God. And then he said, maybe every 15 minutes to think about. And then he said, gosh, I would like to think about God every minute of the day. It's against our nature, though. And so what God has done is to say, I want everything of life to be a signpost so that we're thinking about he is behind it all. And to be grateful, to be in awe of all that he has created. And the stars are a part of that. And yet what we tend to do is instead of doing that, we begin to worshiping at times the things that God has given to us. So there might be a special person in our life or a special job that we've been given or a special, and for some of us, it's a special football team. Whatever it is, but it just becomes absorbing for us. And God says, yeah, in fact, we've got a couple of guys here that are no better than the Redskins. I mean, there's an Eagles fan, and then there's a New Orleans fan, and I know, and it just is. But it's easy to begin saying, "Gosh, I'm absorbed by these things that are created," rather than to saying, "God, thank you for the gifts of life in all these various areas." And so he's saying that in Jeremiah, at that time, declares the Lord, the bones of the kings and officials of Judah, the bones of the priests and the prophets, and the bones of the people of Jerusalem will be removed from their graves because they became so absorbed in worshiping the created rather than the creator. They will be exposed to the sun and the moon and all the stars of heaven, which they have loved and served, and which they have followed and consulted and worshipped. They will not be gathered up or buried, but will be like dung lying on the ground. They've gotten so absorbed in the stuff. And Ann will ask me sometimes, I'll say, I didn't sleep real well last night. She said, why? And I'd say, well, I was thinking about my golf swing, and it got so absorbed in this. It's middle of the night. I mean, it's really important. And I'll watch Jeopardy with Ann. Ann and I. You ever watch Jeopardy? And Jeopardy is this quiz show, and it's for really smart people. And every now and then they'll have a question that I can answer, and I just. You know what I'm talking about, and I feel good about it. But I kind of want to say the answer before Ann. So I'm well, and my palms will begin to sweat, and because what will happen, and I get kind of antsy, and I'll be so, and then I'll know the answer, and I'll know the answer. I know the answer. I keep on wanting. If you have to play Jeopardy to know what this is like, there it goes right on by me. It's just my brain. It just continual brain freeze. It just is. This is really, really a humiliating game to watch. It's and then they have these guys on the show, and they're just bing, 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 bing. But anyways, I love it when they ask questions about baseball or something like that. It's just but I'm just saying, I get so into that stuff. I get so into little stuff of life. And then I'm always, and Ann keeps on saying, you keep on preaching about God, about Jesus. And you are just absorbed by these stupid things. Because I tell her almost every time, I won't be able to sleep tonight because I played this game of Jeopardy, and I get so angry when you get the answer and I don't. I just can't, and then I'll be all tense and tight. And well, I let her know. Oh, yeah. Okay, little marriage secret there. Yeah, I do, but I just somehow it makes me feel better when she says that's really stupid. I don't know. It kind of gives me a sense of reality. But what God wants us to be able to say is, watch that show and realize that I'm behind it all. Look at everything to see I'm behind it. I'm back behind it. Look up at the stars and their magnificence and wonder, but don't worship the stars. I'm behind the stars. In Romans 1, Paul said, they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served the created things rather than the Creator who is forever praised. And that's the tendency, is to get so absorbed in the created things and to fail to see the God who's behind it. And that's the lie. The lie is that the created thing is more important than the Creator. It's, Anne asked this question. It's I know what she meant because I know, but we had some people visiting on Sunday last week, and we'd asked them to come and check out HarborPointe, whatever. And Anne asked the question, well, how did we do? And it was a joke. But you know what? There's a part of me that's saying, yeah, we want to know how you think we did, as if this is some kind of a show. And instead of, we are here to worship God. And if God moves you to connect with us, then that's great. But we're not here to show you how we do. We're here to worship God. And in God's plans and purposes, He's behind this. If He's not behind what we're doing here, then we gather in vain, don't we? And yet we tend to. Let me tell you something. Churches have gotten into the business of marketing so that they can promote their thing and raise the dollars and get the programs and to make the organization happen and to make and so the lie is so often, well, we've got to sacrifice sometimes integrity so that the organization can move ahead. And that's true, but if that's true of a church, we know it's true in politics. We know it's true in lots of areas of life. And God is saying, I want you to see me behind it. I'm behind this. The God that's behind. On Epiphany Sunday, John, you gave a great message about Epiphany. And now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? They came to worship. They came to worship Jesus. It says that we saw his star when it rose. We've come to worship him. And that's what God wants us to do every time a star rises. Now, I think there may have been others that saw the star but didn't come to worship Jesus. Lots of people see stars, but they don't see in those stars a reflection of God. They don't see a means to worship Jesus. It's just stars. And I think at all points what we're doing when we gather here is to see a star and to worship. And in one sense, the stars that we see are not just the stars in the sky, because the scriptures tell us that you and I are to be like those stars, that we are stars ourselves. So that when we gather here, we not only have to look up, but we can look across at one another to see a star. We can see a star, and each one of us can be a source of seeing Jesus because there's a star going on. But the problem is a lot of us kind of take the shine out of the star. This is what the Apostle Paul said. Do everything. And I find this amazing. He says, do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become a blameless and pure children of God, without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Now, Now, some of us have a hard time doing anything without grumbling or arguing, right? This is right up our alley. I was just saying, Ann's mom used to have this saying, and Ann used it, and we use this quite a bit actually at our house because we like this saying. It fits just about everything, almost everything in life. It just works. And the saying was, her mom used to say this, "I hate that." And it was it's a great saying because it really works. It works in lots of things. I mean, this morning we were making the bed and there was a bubble in the bed after we made it, and Ann said, "I hate that." And it was just it works. It works. I tell you what, people, I mean, you drive along, I mean, you can say, it's cold outside. I hate that. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, you can work it. There's a guy that's driving that they shouldn't. Somebody took your parking place. I hate that. You know, it goes on and on. You can use this in all kinds of things. Just try that phrase. I mean, it's a mantra. I hate that. I hate that. Just think about somebody who said something irritating to you. I hate that. I mean, it's just this wonderful phrase. It works. I mean, the pastor tells bad jokes. I hate that. You know, it just goes, I mean, everything. It works. It's a great phrase. Just let that phrase just permeate you. Just let that go down deep, because the thing is, and we started, in fact, the other day, Ann and her sister together, and my brother-in-law and I, we were all together, and we were just driving the car, and I tell you what, we could almost not, everything we're talking about, we could say that. I hate that. Every now and then, we could pull out, I like that. But, you know, it was mostly, I hate that. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. I think Paul's saying that it's because it's so natural for us to say, I hate that. So that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. How many of us would say amen to the warped and crooked generation in which we live? It's moving in a very strange and bizarre way. But if we can live without grumbling or arguing, then we will shine among them like stars in the sky. Every now and then you see a star shining in the sky. I just want to say, one of the reasons why I love coming here is because there are a lot of stars that are shining in the sky right here for me. I come here because I see Jesus. It's not just you, it's Jesus. I see Jesus reflected. It's light, and it's light in this world. I don't, for sure, I don't come here to hear Larry's jokes. They but I sure like to see Larry. But despite what Larry has just said, I come here to see Larry because he reflects Jesus. It's a way in which I see Jesus.
I like that.
In Daniel it says, and those who are wise shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness, and those who turn many to righteousness, and those who help others become righteous. They're like stars forever and ever. This is something that God does. He gives us that privilege of of influencing other people. I told the early service that I used to work at Glacier National Park. I did that for a couple of summers. I grew up and I had a sister, and my mom was one of those moms who believed that the females were supposed to work in the kitchen and the males were supposed to work outside. And I had never, when I graduated from college, I stayed at home when I went to college, so I lived at home. When I'd gone to college, when I left and went I'd never washed any clothes on I never ironed for sure. I had made a bed, but I never had turned on a stove. I mean, seriously, I'd never turned on a stove. We didn't have microwaves, so it's, and my sister, we used to have what was called a sandwich club. And I made, and I was the president, my sister was the vice president, and the job of the vice president was to make the sandwiches, and the job of the president was to eat the sandwiches. And so it was a great club. And my mom would always say, Marianne, won't you make a sandwich for your brother? I mean, that was the way it was. I mean, it was just the way it was in my home. And so when I went off to Glacier National Park in Montana, and I lived in a cabin by myself, and I had a wood stove, and that was what I was supposed to cook on. This is serious. The first time I had some rice, and I was going to cook some rice, I just threw them into a frying pan, and I thought I was going to have some fried rice. I thought this is. I know. It was really sad. My mom mailed out a children's Betty Crocker cookbook, and that was my recipes right there for how to, but I had this, but out there was this 10-year-old girl that was also living on the same ranger station that I was in, and she was my perpetual friend, and I don't know if you know about 10-year-old girls, but she would just tell me everything. I mean, she told me how to do everything. I didn't need much help. There's this 10-year-old little girl, Marie, she would just tell me, oh, I'm supposed to do this. No, this is what you're, and so I just listened to her, and and in return, what I would do for her, I brought out the Chronicles of Narnia, and I would read. She would follow me around all day long, and I would read the Chronicles of Narnia to her. It's great Christian fiction by C.S. Lewis. And she tracked me down on Facebook about 5 or 6 years ago, and she said, "Are you the Tom Andrews that was at Glacier back in the early 70s?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "This is Marie Chernlin." And so we chatted, and she said to me something. She said, "You instilled in me a lifelong love for Narnia and the works of C.S. Lewis." She said, you instilled in me. And here I was. I just thought I was just me. I was just being me. You know what? I don't think stars say, well, I'm going to shine bright today. I'm going to be a real bright shining star today. I think a star just is a star, reflecting Jesus. And I think what we're called to do is just to be me, following Jesus. It's just me. It's just me following Jesus. It's just really natural for me to give Larry a hard time. It's just me. But I want Larry, I want Jesus to be brought into that. I just want me to be me following Jesus. Because quite frankly, I irritate the heck out of some people. Ann will tell me that. She said, you really, and I said, well, I'm sort of me. Sort of me, but I want to follow Jesus. I think I would be terrible trying to be Larry, though. I'd be a terrible Larry. I would be, Leo, you lived on a boat. I've sunk more boats than you could. I mean, I was the guy on the sunfish that everybody else would say, hey, help that guy. I was in the middle of the lake and everything was tipped over. I'm that guy that they used to pull in with the rope. I couldn't be Leo. I couldn't. Crystal, you're asking us to clap. I can't clap in time. And so I always clap in syncopation because I can't clap in time. I just can't do it. I can't. I could no more be Crystal. And thank God you can't be me. You can't. Yes, he has, Dee Dee, but we have this really warped notion that somehow we're not enough. We're not good enough. We've got to be better. We've got to be like so-and-so who's better. I wish I was like so-and-so. And God says, no. I want you to be a star. I want you to be a star shining in this universe. I want you to be a star. I want you to be a star. And that star is only going to shine if you're just Dee Dee following Jesus. That's how that star shines. Amen.